Meet Kenith. He runs a flower shop on a very busy street. Business is good, but he'd like to do better. Kenith is smart. He notices that the business is really good on certain days like Valentine's Day. In fact, the business soars on certain holidays that demand outpaces supply. To get ahead of the problem, Kenith decided to increase his inventory. He asked his supplier to increase his daily inventory by 20%, hoping customers would come, but they don't. Lying there unsold, Ken's flowers withered away. Kenith took a hit in the next week. Kenith wondered, how do I accurately predict my future sales? Seeking better control over his inventory and sales, Kenith hired the services of a professional firm. The financial modelers analyzed Kenith's historical data, his sales receipts and balance sheets from the last 2 years. They did what-if analysis to account for various scenarios and events. They then built a predictive model that would take the guesswork out and help make better decisions based on forecasts and assumptions. A financial model is a mathematical model designed to represent a simplified version of performance of a financial asset or portfolio of a business, project, or any other investment. Based on the models, Kenith was accurately able to predict the demand and stock his inventory accordingly. Sales were up by a whopping 20%. Numbers at the heart of business decisions, and financial models help owners like Ken make better decisions.
Financial models play an integral role in the day-to-day business operations of both large and small, private and public companies. The needs for using models and the content you'll include on them vary by industry and function of work. But on a broad level, spreadsheets come in handy when you need to store, manipulate or edit and present one or more sets of data relevant to your work. These can also facilitate a wide range of common tasks, including performance measurement and business planning. The insights gained from a spreadsheet can form the basis of future planning processes within your business. Over the course of this video, we are going to understand the step-by-step breakdown of successfully creating spreadsheets that adhere to the universal principles of financial modeling. Before one starts to build a financial model, it is essential to plan the design and structure of the model. The planning stage of the model is very important and should not be overlooked. This is particularly true with a large complex model that has a number of separate worksheets and spreadsheets and where a number of sensitivities are required to be operated on them. After talking about the model development stages, we would have so far acquired a fair amount of idea about the importance of proper thinking and planning before we enter the process of executing the model. Now we come to the main crux of this training. What are the best practices involved with financial modeling and how can we imbibe the same in our practice? We will try to cover most of the best practices, if not all of them, followed across the globe to make the model consistent and user-friendly. So let's start. In this session, you learn about the 5 design principles of spreadsheets, also known as the golden rules of modeling. We'll also examine 2 of them in detail, that's readability and transparency. In addition, we learn how to apply these modeling best practices in real life. We start by introducing the 5 principles of well-designed spreadsheets called as the golden rules of modeling. They are readability, transparency, consistency, integrity, and simplicity. Starting with these golden rules, the first principle is readability. If we go by the literal meaning of readability, it is the ease with which a reader can understand a written piece of text. In natural language, the readability of text depends on its content, that is, the complexity of its vocabulary and syntax, and its presentation, such as hypergraphic aspects like font size, line height, and line length. Similarly, from a model point of view, it is very important to make the model readable for the final user, and hence some principles are required to be followed to implement this practice. It doesn't require too much of an effort. If done simultaneously while building the model, it gives the model a completely different look. So what are these principles that make your model more readable? First, you must organize data in a logical order. It is very important to maintain the correct flow of the calculations across the sheet and across the workbook as well. While building the model, we should try to describe the function and the purpose of each section, because that gives a clearer understanding of the underlying calculations. Formatting is a must in financial models. Without proper formatting, the efficiency of the model easily drops by 20 to 30%. And as we will discuss ahead, there are many basic ways to format the work done in the model. Since the model is being prepared for the end user, it is very important to be sure what information we want to convey and how we want to convey it. Conditional formatting should be used to convey the information in a better way. Other than these, sheet settings should be maintained properly for easy readability on the screen. And print settings should also be set properly for readability on printed copies. It should be in such a manner that if a person takes the printout of the model, he or she should be able to understand the flow without any difficulty. While building the model, logical calculation order is necessary because that is the only thing that will make your spreadsheet look accurate. Therefore, whenever possible, logic should flow consistently. The flow of calculation should be from top to bottom and from left to right across the sheets and from front to back across the workbook. In simple words, formulas should have precedents that are to the left or above. This ensures the reader grasps the model more easily and also it makes the process more time efficient. There is a story to be told via this model. For example, whenever you read a book, you never start reading it from the bottom. You always read it from the top and you move from the front page to the back page. In the same way, in your spreadsheet, you should start your calculations from the top on the first sheet and then move smoothly downward and then to the next sheet, which is also created in a similar flow. The model may have executive summary outputs at the front or top for easier interpretation of the client. Let's understand how. As you can see, there are three sheets: inputs, calculations and financial statements or FS. You can see the order followed. We follow the order of inputs leading to calculations, which finally leads to the final outputs, in this case the financial statements. Let's also take a look at this in Excel to understand the flow more clearly. Here we have the three sheets that we were talking about: inputs, calculations and FS. As you can see, the input sheet has all the required assumptions for the calculation sheets, where the calculation sheets are segregated in a modular format and the formulas are flowing from left to right with all their precedents on the left hand side. Ultimately, they lead to the output sheet, which is the FS sheet, and contains the results in the form of the profit and loss statement, the cash flow statement and the balance sheet. Now, if you look at the input sheet in a little more detail, you'll see that all the input cells have been clearly highlighted, which show which are the cells that need to be updated. It flows from top to bottom, starting with the basic planning and timeline inputs, moving on to the various cost inputs, moving on to funding, revenues, depreciation, tax and valuation related inputs. You can see that there is a clear flow from top to bottom. Here you can see that inputs flow from left to right. Then we have our input sheet followed by the calculation sheet. Here you can see that the values are all referring to the input sheet. And if you scroll down this calculation sheet, you'll notice that there are no input cells here. All your inputs are entered only in one place on the input sheet. The calculation sheet picks it up from there, and the FS sheet then picks up the calculations from the calculations sheet. So there is a clear logical flow amongst the three sheets. The next step to improving readability is to describe the functionality and purpose of each section. Firstly, we need to explain what the spreadsheet is doing. This is done by using headings, subheadings, or sometimes writing text alongside to explain. For example, if a spreadsheet is calculating depreciation of assets using SLM, it should be mentioned in a highlighted row at the top and in between so that it's easy for the interpreter to understand the same and not confuse between SLM, that straight line method, and WDV, or the written down value method. Secondly, rows should be labeled to exactly what an item represents. When segmentation is done, the description of segments, the parts, the subheadings can be labeled, making it look like an organized sheet and therefore will give a proper picture about the flow of the calculations. The third way is to describe what the spreadsheet is doing. A model might have n number of spreadsheets, which makes it difficult to find the data. Therefore, it is strongly advised to rename your spreadsheet according to its content. This will enable the reader to navigate easily through your model. After this, the units used at every place should be mentioned because there might be different units mentioned in different cells for different inputs required for a single calculation. If the units are not properly mentioned, then this can lead to a huge blunder in the model. Lastly, if there is any additional information which needs to be added, it should be added in the form of comments. There can be any sudden change in the formulas in a particular year or some change in the inputs which is different from the common trend. Events like this should be highlighted with some additional comments for the user to comprehend the change easily rather than taking it as an error in the model. Now, once we have learned how to display the data across your spreadsheet, you need to have a better insight on how to use appropriate formats and units. As you can see on the right side of the screen, you will find that the data written in the upper half is not easy to understand. That is because the data entered is clear to the developer and he will understand it in just a glance. But when it is read by someone unfamiliar, he or she may take some time to understand it. The same data is presented in a different way in the lower half with the use of columns to mark the type and unit of inputs, which makes the data systematic and hence it is very much easier to understand. Such formatting techniques are very helpful while doing calculations as they help in making calculations easy at one hand and on the other hand makes the life of the user or the reviewer less difficult. We all at some point in our experience with MS Office so far must have used the tool called Format Painter. Now for a model, standardization is very important and the whole spreadsheet should exist in the same standard format. For this, Format Painter again comes to our rescue. It allows the developer to copy the format to maintain consistency. For the use of Format Painter, go to the Home tab and select the Format Painter icon. It's a brush-shaped icon. With your cursor on the cell whose format you want to copy, click on the Format Painter icon. Then, click the cell or range to which you want to copy the format. This will enable the existence of the same format throughout the sheet and make the different segments of the model follow a similar approach and the model also to be visually more consistent for the user to follow. Moving on, to make the model visually more lucid, let's have a look at the different types of cell styles. Under the Home ribbon, there is the Style segment where we can select the format for different types of cells. To use this, click New Cell Style and name it. Then right-click on a style and select Modify to modify its respective number format, alignment, font, border, fill and protection. This way you can modify any existing style while leaving some attributes undefined. Let's look at an example to understand it better. In this sheet, you can clearly see that there is a subtotal format and a different format for the total values. Now, these are clearly reflecting in the cell styles here as subtotal and totals because we have created them. So if we want to calculate the total here, we can simply apply the total cell style. Similarly, if we want to calculate subtotals here, we can format it by simply using the subtotal cell style instead of having to format this separately each time. Now the way to set this up is by going to cell styles. Now I can click on this and either modify this and specify the formats that I want to give it. The number, font, border, fill. And similarly, I can always create a new cell style. Let's call it test or let's call it inputs. And let's say we keep it in a pale blue color with dotted borders. And red font. Now as soon as you create this, you have this input style here. Now every time you want to enter inputs, all you need to do is use this cell style. This helps you extensively in maintaining the formats across your spreadsheets. Numbers form the core of your model. So let's look into the formatting of numbers and dates. A key shortcut used to format cells is Ctrl+1. We can use Excel's built-in number formats or set up a custom format. For numbers, the suggested format is to have the positive number as normal, the negative number in brackets and in red font, and the values in zero shown as a dash. Dates can be in the form of date, month, year, or the short format or the long format present in the number tab of the home ribbon. As we can see, we should have different formats for positive, negative, zero values, and again different for percentages, dates, error messages, and custom values. This leads a clear understanding of the underlying values and helps in calculation as well as properly understanding the model. Let's look at an example again. So here there are various examples for value formats such as numbers, dates, percentages, and error messages, and a few more which are like custom numbers. So here for numbers, if I open the dialog box, what we have here is a format which gives us positive numbers with no decimal places, negative numbers with no decimal places but with brackets and shown in red font, and zero values displayed as a dash, which is why the minute you change any of these values to zero, you automatically see a dash here. Similarly, we have the date that has been formatted in the DD, MMM, YY, YY format, which shows the first three letters of the month and the year in full. Again, for percentages similar to numbers, you are able to define specific formats for positive, negative, and zero values in the same manner. Now, it's interesting to note that instead of just formats, you can also have words appear for your number values. So here, for any positive output or a negative output, we say there is an error, and if the value is 0, it says OK. This is a format that's very often used for checks. So if you want to, for example, check whether the sum of three numbers adds up to 100%, you would apply the formula and then apply this sort of formatting. So any sum that gives you either more or less than 100 would show an error message, whereas if it's exactly 100, you can format it or code your formula to show an OK message. This is what you can do using custom formats. You can also format your cells to hide everything. This is done by simply using semicolons. However, remember never to use this in your models. The point of bringing this up here is to show that people might use it. And then you have these custom numbers, which is similar to the number formats we saw above. The only point that is required to be highlighted here is that you can only define one format for a positive number, one for negative, and one for zero. If you read this here, what it's requiring you to do is to show numbers greater than 1 in blue font. Now that is something that custom formats cannot do. You can set formats for numbers that are 0, less than 0, or more than 0. Nothing else. So this is what custom formats can help you do in your models. It helps you maintain formats across all your numbers, values, dates, percentages, and other inputs and calculations in the model. Here we can see some of the format secrets to make the life of a modeler easier. For example, the format shown in the grey highlighted header here, where the hash symbol represents a placeholder for digits. 0 shows whatever number is in this position. It will obviously show 0 if blank. An underscore character skips the width of the character used. The close bracket character is used for spacing, so positive numbers align with negative numbers, and the semicolon is a separator between formats. Now in this second format, red has been indicated in square brackets. This is used to denote the color, like in this case for negative inputs. There are other colors like blue, green, yellow, which can be used as and when required. In the third format type shown here, string prefix or suffix is used so that output shows the number and the string, but the cell's content is still fully a number and usable in formulas. So in the first condition where we have used 3 hash symbols followed by 0 and 1 decimal place followed by the letter X, this would present any value having the format as a number followed by X. If you type 5, what you will see on the cell is 5.0x. And you will be able to use the 5 input in any formula just as a numeric value. Similarly, using the period prefix allows you to show years or the time periods as period 1 or period 2, and yet use the number denoted by these periods in date and time period related calculations. Next, we come to the formatting of borders. As it can be seen here, border formatting leads to a much better display of the calculations and the outputs. But we should also avoid overusing, because it might make it look a bit messy and will spoil the entire purpose for which we are using it in the first place. We can have borders or sub-borders, for instance, while calculating total or subtotals. We can also use borders to segregate different types of calculations from each other. One block can be used to show the revenue calculations, another for cost of goods sold, and so on and so forth. Now we will talk about one of the most important tools of formatting, which is conditional formats for additional readability of alerts. Conditional formatting can be used to color fatal code errors or other points that need checking. It should be kept in mind that not all code errors can be detected by using conditional formatting. When we apply conditional formats to cells, it changes the format attributes of a cell if a condition is met. The most common usage for this is for showing trends across periods. For example, green for period to period growth and red for declines. Let's explore the conditional formatting tab under the home ribbon and understand with the help of an example. So conditional formatting is found here under the home tab in the styles group. In the first example here, we are required to format cells I8 to L10 so that whenever there is no tenant here, the cells appear as red. So that clearly indicates which are the vacant property types that are still available. So the minute we change this cell to a blank cell, you'll notice that row 9 automatically turns into red. The way this is being done is by setting a condition here such that whenever column H is blank, these cells will automatically be formatted in red to highlight that there is currently no tenant here. As soon as you enter a tenant here, you can really enter any value. As long as it's non-blank, it will show you a non-vacant property. And these red properties in a longer list would clearly help you identify which are the ones that are available. Similarly, in the second example, you have a whole list of transactions by target, acquirer, and by the enterprise value. Now, what has been formatted here is to show all those transactions with an EV between 500 and 1000 million. And you will see that this has been done under conditional formatting by setting the condition accordingly, where if it is greater than 1000, it has no format, but if it is greater than 500, it is formatted in red. So for all values that are between 500 and 1000, you have this kind of a red format appearing, which helps you identify these transactions immediately at a glance. So this is how conditional formatting really helps you in your analysis and also in terms of presenting your outputs to the end user. After understanding the usage of conditional formatting, let's see the other readability principles of maintaining the sheet settings properly for better clarity. Some of the common tips are to set columns at appropriate widths for content, using proper headlines for clearly labeling, etc. It is advised to keep the zoom percent at a normal percentage of 70% or more, depending on the width of the sheets and the number of rows and columns, to have a proper view of the sheets at sight. Another very useful way to ease the navigation is to freeze panes. This can be done by selecting the cell, clicking on the View tab and selecting Freeze Panes. This way, if your file has too many columns, you can scroll through the columns with the input or the name labels being visible on the left side. We can see this from an example. So as you can see in this sheet here, I've set the zoom setting to 80%. If I reduce it to below 70 or below 60, you will notice that the timeline starts showing these symbols and makes it unreadable, and therefore 80 is a reasonable zoom percentage for this sheet. By freezing panes here, I'm able to freely move across the columns, yet seeing the row labels very clearly. Similarly, for the column labels when I'm scrolling down. You can also clearly see that there are headings, subtotals, and total rows that clearly indicate which are the important aspects of this sheet. This sheet is clearly readable. As you can see in the balance sheet section, we have the subsections for sources and applications. Every segment of the sheet is clearly differentiated. The check cells are clearly shown at the bottom here. And this is an example of a sheet that is well formatted. There's a good chance your models get printed or circulated at your meeting. Hence, it is important to ensure your model is print ready. This brings us to our final principle on readability, which is proper print formatting for maximum readability. After the calculations are done, it is very important to show the data in a presentable manner. That is, if someone takes the printout of the sheets, it should come in a proper flow and he or she should be able to understand your model easily and quickly. Some tips to attain such a level is to have the sheet in the landscape mode, and the scale should be fixed at a decent percentage depending on the amount of calculations present in the sheets, but it should be kept in mind that anything below 55% becomes too small to read. One should also work on the row headings as they should repeat on all sheets. It can be done by going on the page layout option and selecting print titles. Above these, the headers and footers should include basic information like the project name, date and time, page number, file information, etc. This way, a proper print-ready document will be ready from the model and considered as a job well done. By now, I hope that each one of you would be able to explain readability principles easily to any person. And so we move on to the second golden rule of modeling, which is transparency. In common parlance, transparency means operating in such a way that it is easy for others to see what actions are performed. Transparency in financial modeling means having a clear view of what is present in the spreadsheet so that the user has complete visibility of all the calculations involved. This is done by showing how things are related to each other, how things are classified by keeping everything visible, incorporating proper segmentation, etc. Like readability, transparency also includes some principles which we will see in the next slide. The transparency principle has 8 major points which you need to keep in mind. So, the first and foremost principle is to separate inputs, calculations and outputs. This means that between input data, the calculations and the output, there should be a proper flow and separation with respect to sheets as well. Next is that there should be no hard-coded inputs in the formulas. The formulas should majorly have linked cells as their constituents. These formulas should be concise, and keeping them short makes it easy to rectify mistakes. The next point is very important, which is to use timing flags. We'll be talking about this in detail a little later with the help of an example, but for a basic understanding, you should know that timing flags help in organizing time series data across all the sheets present in the spreadsheet and are very important to make the model more consistent and easier to understand the calculations. The next one is to build a spreadsheet in modular segments. This is to ensure a proper readability of the sheet's constituent data. Also, you should keep everything visible. That is, when you keep your rows or columns hidden, it causes problems for a third person to read the visible data if it's related to those hidden items. It also leads to errors when some selected rows are copied and they constitute those hidden rows or columns. You should at all times provide sufficient information so that if a set of fresh eyes have a look at your report or model, the person should be able to understand it with ease. The last point to remember is to use separate formats to classify, like using a different color and format for call-ups, inputs and outputs. Let's now look at each of these points in more detail. As we mentioned, the first and foremost principle is to separate inputs, outputs and calculations. Spreadsheets, as mentioned in the slide, should look like a book, as in each part should fit into the next part. There should be a smooth or natural flow from inputs through calculations to arrive at the outputs, irrespective of the direction. There should be a clear difference in locations of these as well, meaning users should only have to go to one place to update inputs, refer to calculations and to analyze the result. This is usually achieved by using color or other formatting to distinguish between input cells and output cells. The use of tab colors and sheet names helps users navigate around the spreadsheet. Separating these also help in linking these values to each other quickly. Basically, on one side there is something which exists as a free mix of input and data camouflaged in between each other, which only the creator knows that which value is where and why. On the other hand, there is a properly differentiated spreadsheet which has different input and output spreadsheets, properly segmented and using different colors for clear identification of the input cells and the use of borders to designate the output cells. Outputs are on separate sheets that are organized in a clean and presentation ready formats. Thus, the more you can work with separate inputs and output areas, the clearer and better organized your model will be. Now we come to one of the most important principles which is a must to be followed in all models. One should not hard code values into formulas. This is because if you link your formulas to cells instead of hard coding the values, you can check the results for different values. Let's look at an example here. Here, when we look at the two ways to calculate interest value, in the first one, we take the balance and the other values which are the interest rate and the timing, which are hard coded into the interest cell. On the other hand, the second way shows the three constituent values separately and then using their cell numbers to calculate the interest. This ensures proper identification of values. Also, this enables the user to check the results for different values. Thus, it makes it more flexible and the same can be used for different scenarios as well. This is a very small example, but when we look at the spreadsheets used in modeling, there are a lot of values, and if we hard code them for one instance, afterwards identifying those values again to check what this value signified would be a very tedious task. Therefore, do not hard code inputs and use cell references instead. Let's also quickly take a look at this on Excel so that the difference between the two methods is clear. As you can see in this sheet here, there are three options shown. In the first option, the key elements of the formula are hard coded in the formula itself. So while you can see revenues, a layperson looking at this formula has no way of understanding what these hard coded numbers in the formula imply. In option 2, while there is no hard coding, but if you look at the formula for calculation of revenues here, you'll see that the formula is extremely long. So while people can easily look at the inputs, decoding this formula can still be a daunting task. Moving on to option 3, this clearly connects with the inputs. This clearly connects with the inputs here, and you'll see that every single item clearly shows what is the calculation going on here. For example, year 1 is simply linked to the base quantity, year 2 is linked to the base quantity and the growth, year 3 in a similar manner to the year 2 quantity and the growth. Similarly for price. So looking at this revenue calculation here, it is extremely clear for anybody looking at the calculation to immediately understand what exactly is going on. Now the difference between this formula and this formula is simply the fact that this is way more readable, way more transparent and clearly understandable to the end user. So keeping your formulas short definitely adds to the readability and transparency of your model, which brings us to the next important point that we are about to discuss. The next important point is to keep the formulas short. Breaking up calculations to multiple steps such that each step has short formulas is advised. It is better to have a calculation spread over 5 lines rather than completing it in one line and making the formula run into 2 lines. If you write a formula and then have a hard time understanding it 10 minutes later, that is a sign that you might want to break it up into 2 or more separate components. This ensures clear identification of what is being calculated where and why. Also, the linking part of the values gets easier when the formulas are small. You should try to familiarize yourself with the toolkit of basic Excel functions to make each cell do more without complexity. For example, the function SUMPRODUCT replaces multiple multiplication formulas and a sum with a single formula. Of course, there are some cases in which the formula is going to be incomprehensible because of what you are asking it to do. In such a case, you should double check the formula always. Another good modeling practice is the usage of timelines and timing flags. Timelines help organize time series data across sheets. In a spreadsheet, each sheet has a timeline row and each sheet needs to have the same timeline. Therefore, we create a special timeline sheet and use it as a template to link each sheet's timeline with the template timeline. This ensures that at every minute change in the template sheet, there is a corresponding change in all the timelines across the spreadsheets. Timelines should occupy the same positions across all worksheets to minimize cross-sheet reference errors. For example, the year 2014 should appear in the same column across all the worksheets. Timing flags are used by the formulas in each column to trigger events. Firstly, the flags give a visual display of the timing, the time frame in which this event occurred. And secondly, changing the timing flags changes the functioning of the calculations in a uniform way and reduces the chances of erroneous calculations. Let's illustrate this with an example for a better understanding. So here we have set a timeline which is a quarterly timeline. As you can see, we have this time period moving from 1st April to March 19 over 8 quarters. Now this is simply being done by having an input for months per period, and you'll see that there is a period reference number for each period. This has been highlighted in grey because here the number is hard coded, whereas in every subsequent cell it is linked. Again, we've hard coded the number here, but for every subsequent period you will notice that it's linked, and in this manner a quarterly timeline has been set. Now the minute we change this months per period to 12, you'll see that this automatically converts the timeline to an annual timeline. These kind of calculations are extremely helpful when setting up various calculations in the model, especially if they are linked to the periodicity, such as calculating the revenues for a period, because the revenues for a 3-month period would definitely differ from the revenues for a 12-month period. Similarly, for working capital items which are denoted as number of days of sales or number of days of costs, it's very important to know the periodicity of the model and the timeline so that necessary adjustments and annualization conversions can be done. Now let's look at another example here. Let's say we have an expense which escalates every 2 years. These kind of timing flags have been set here. Now what we looked at on the top here was a timeline. What we are looking at now is a timing flag. So setting up this timing flag here clearly shows us which are the years in which there is an escalation happening. Timing flags are nothing but binary outputs which give a 1 or a 0, which show us whether a particular event has occurred in a period or not. Now if I change this interval to 3, you'll notice that the timing flags automatically move and the escalations automatically occur in the corresponding period. Using timing flags greatly minimizes the risk of error in your models, and you definitely need to master this. Next, we move on to discuss the importance of laying out your calculations in modular segments. This means that dividing the spreadsheet into segments and showing the work done in different parts which fit together and form the whole calculation. For example, when we calculate revenue, we should show the volume calculation in a segment. In the next segment, the price calculation should be shown, and the results of these should be multiplied together to give out revenue. This can be done by building the spreadsheet block by block in clearly marked sections. Each section does one type of calculation and then passes the results to the next section. Meaning the volume section will only calculate volume and not the price of each product. There will be a different price section for it. A modular approach makes it very easy to add or to enhance the model and for error checking, as each part is clearly mentioned. Also, it makes it easy for a third person to understand the data given in your spreadsheet. The next principle is to keep everything visible. While working on a spreadsheet, one should be able to see all the data present there. We should keep the rows and columns in full view. Sometimes hidden rows and columns can cause problems while copying the data from them and copying data over them. Avoid hiding columns and rows in the model to hide calculations. This only makes it difficult to understand what the model is doing. For a final printing, you might want to hide some rows for a better printout display, but once the printing is done, you should unhide them again. Also, avoid setting an invisible or white font in which a cell's contents appear to be blank. This makes it vexing when checking formulas. that read these invisible contents because the formulas seem to be working off empty cells, and you would need to go through an additional step of converting the invisible formatting into normal visible formatting. It is also easy to create errors when these invisible rows are inadvertently deleted or overwritten as the model evolves. Formulas are often said to be invisible when some required calculations need to be done, but the model designer does not want to mark the layout that has been worked out. Thus, a good solution for avoiding the need to have these invisible formulas is to have a good sense of where inputs should be placed, where calculations can be performed, and what the outputs should look like. The final principle under the transparency rule is to provide additional information as and when required. Additional information is necessary that a third party has a good context to your model and is able to understand it easily. Use of labels and cell comments to indicate relevant information like the purpose, owner, what is the source of the data for the cell, warnings, and other development notes is advised so that the reader has all the necessary information to understand the model. The cell comments are not that handy because they are not readily visible. The user has to click or hover the pointer to read the comment, and they also do not get printed. You should mention the places where the information is critical. Consider writing a plain label in a cell to that effect. This implies that important cells should be visible directly from the rest and convey the important information to the end user.